I can get out of the vehicle first and then make the car park itself remotely. Watch this. Isn't that amazing? The BYD Sealion 6 has been breaking sales records, and for good reason. It is of a great size, it is a crossover, and more importantly, it is also a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. But what if I tell you that there's a new car in the market, one that could possibly beat the BYD Sealion 6? Well, hello and welcome to the 2025 Changan NEVO Q05 plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. In this video, let's find out if this car has the potential to be as good as a BYD Sealion 6, or maybe even better. Okay, so first we have to explain that this new Changan NEVO Q05 actually comes in two variants, a lower SE variant and this ID variant. This is a top-of-the-line variant and this is what we're reviewing today. Anyway, from the outside, you might notice that this vehicle looks a little bit familiar. That's because pretty much underneath what this is the Changan CS55 Plus, which we've already reviewed back in the day. Now, there is a big difference though. Since this is from the NEVO lineup, Changan's like electrified lineup, there's no longer a Changan logo right here. Instead, you have the 101 logo, the NEVO logo, which kind of denotes, like, you know, the digital age, 1 and 0, binary and all that. That aside, you still have the nice set of LED headlights right here. This upper part of the grille, that is sealed off for more aerodynamics. You do get front and rear fog lights for this higher ID variant. And as you go on over towards the side of the Changan NEVO Q05, you'll see that it has an impressive set of 19-inch rims. Yes, for this variant, 19 inches, get the lower variant 18s. What I'm not a big fan of though are the tires. They're wrapped in Chaoyang branded tires. So yeah, not exactly my favorite. Nonetheless, it does the job perfectly well. I also really love how the doors are a little bit on the tall side of things. It looks a little bit chunkier. Now, what about charging? Well, the charging port's actually there on the other side, but this takes a Type 2 AC charger. No DC charging, unfortunately, but none of its competitors have it either, so I guess in that regard, it's pretty fair. Now for the rear too, surprise, surprise, it looks pretty similar to a Changan CS55 Plus, but of course there are no visible tailpipes or fake exhaust because it's all hidden under there, just to make sure that you know and the people around you on the road will know that you have an electrified vehicle. So it looks very clean right here. Of course, the logo is also kind of different. There's a little bit of whiteness to this rear tail lamps, and there still is some sort of a spoiler effect on the top. This ID variant also gets a power tailgate, and as you open this up, despite the slightly more compact nature of this vehicle, storage space is actually pretty good. Maybe 2 medium luggage will fit in here. There is this false floor, but there's this like thing that covers up your storage space, so it does eat into your storage space a little bit, but underneath it is batteries. So yeah, no space saver spare tire here. If you do need to carry extra items though, those rear seats can be folded down 60/40, so nothing to worry about. Under the hood of the NEVO Q05 PHEV is this 1.5-liter gasoline engine mated to an electric motor and an 18.4 kilowatt-hour battery. What this gives you is a pure EV range of up to 125 kilometers. At least that is what Changan claims. But in reality, we were able to return about 75 kilometers on a single charge. Not bad at all. Total combined output too, according to Changan, is at 1,215 kilometers, which sounds very much believable, although we didn't really drive this over 1,000 kilometers during our test. But anyway, back to this engine. It makes 215 horsepower, 330 Newton meters of torque, and it also has a dedicated hybrid transmission. Inside heavy city traffic, you can expect 25.6 kilometers per liter, and on the highway it goes down a little bit to around 23.2 kilometers per liter. This is all the while leaving it in its IEM mode, the intelligent mode. So a lot of vehicles now have advanced driver assistance system functions, and they're impressive, sure, but nothing is as impressive as the remote control parking feature of the Changan NEVO Q05 PHEV. You see, usually right here I wouldn't have space to come out of the vehicle, right, if I were to park this alone, but with the button on the key fob, I can get out of the vehicle first and then make the car park itself remotely. Watch this. Isn't that amazing? So now if I want to get into the vehicle, I just do the reverse. I now hold the unlock button. Just wait for it. It's pretty slow for safety. Now I can just keep making it go forward as far as I want. And when I've had enough, I'll just let go of the lock button, press the lock button again, open the car, and now I can drive off just like that. Here inside the Changan NEVO Q05 PHEV, first to check the door. Not bad at all. So as you step inside this cabin, the first thing you'll realize is that the materials, they're pretty nice. There's nice padding in it, both on the dashboard as well as on the side of the doors. This center padded armrest, that's also nice too. And I would arguably say that it's marginally better compared to a BYD Sealion 6. However, if you now sit here at the driver's seat, if you've driven a Peugeot in the past, this will look very similar. I mean, there is that flat top and flat bottom sporty steering wheel, that's leather wrapped, and also a split cockpit design wherein you have your 10-inch digital instrument cluster a little bit higher up. Well, guess why? That's because, at least in China, the PSA group, or the parent company of Peugeot, is actually tied up with Changan. So yeah, this makes sense. Anyway, for this ID variant, you do get this 12.3-inch touchscreen by the center with supposedly wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but for some reason I can't seem to connect to it wirelessly, but I'm probably missing out on something. It's probably not the car's fault. This also gets a very, very clear reverse camera and 360-degree view camera, both top-down and with a 3D view to it. Just below that are AC controls, which is really good because this means that even while you're driving, you won't really be distracted having to go inside your infotainment screen. However, they are still not physical buttons. I just wish that they give us physical buttons, just like what Hyundai has been doing again recently. Thank God they're putting it back. Minor gripe, honestly. Below that is a wireless charging pad, an electronic shifter, your drive mode selection switches for your BEV mode, your HEV mode, your REV mode, your IEM mode, and there's even 2 flaps on the side which activates your DVR or your digital video recorder, which means that this vehicle also comes built in with a dash cam, although you do have to supply the the micro SD card yourself. Big panoramic sunroof on the top. You get a 6-speaker Pioneer sound system which sounds pretty okay, and you even have ambient lighting plus the full suite of advanced driver assistance system functions such as integrated adaptive cruise control, lane changing assist, lane keeping assist, and also autonomous emergency braking. Finally, the most impressive thing about this is when you roll down the windows, you'll notice that they're a little bit thicker than usual. In fact, there's like space in between it. That's because this is actually double pane soundproof glass, but this is only exclusive to this higher ID variant. Oh, hold on, we forgot to talk about the seats. Number one, they're very comfortable. They're also wrapped in this like leatherette with the two-tone design. I am not a fan of the non-adjustable headrest though, but nonetheless, it's okay for even longer drives. You get 6-way power adjustments for the driver's side with a memory function exclusive to this ID variant, and a 4-way electrically adjustable passenger seat. If you go for your lower variant, well, that will be manual, but that's about it. Now for the rear seats, we also check the door first. And that sounds not too bad either. So yes, very Changan CS55 Plus here at the back. That is true for both the legroom, the headroom, which is pretty good as long as you're not extremely tall in terms of headroom, despite having the panoramic sunroof. But just like also the Changan CS55 Plus, I do not understand why Changan simply refuses to put a dual air vent setup at the back. There's just this big one, what I call the Cyclops air vent. So you can't share. You gotta choose who's the most dominant person seated here. Who's the alpha? He's the one who's gonna get the air vent, and only he will get it. But don't worry, the cabin isn't extremely big that the front air vents won't be able to blow air here into the back, so you're fine with that. Now, despite this vehicle being at least new here in the Philippines, you can really tell that it's a little bit aging in just some aspects, and that's because you do have 2 USB-A ports here at the back with no USB-C port. Unfortunately, the same is true for the front. There's not a single USB-C port in this vehicle. Yeah, sad. But there still is this center armrest with 2 cup holders. And just in case I forgot to mention, the front soft touch materials on the door cards, they do not continue here at the rear, but that's just a minor thing. So now we drive the Changan NEVO Q05 plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and driving this is really good. I was able to try out the BYD Sealion 6 before, and yes, that car was pretty impressive, but honestly, I'm pretty impressed here. I'm more impressed here, rather. It just feels a lot more refined in here. It feels a lot more quiet in here. This particular variant, the ID variant, does come with these aforementioned soundproof windows, these double pane glass, which makes it really quiet. So the fact that this vehicle runs majority of the time in the EV mode, which is already extremely quiet, then you add these windows, even when you're going pretty fast at highway speeds, it's supremely quiet in here. Yes, I could honestly use better tires. Maybe that will quiet down the tire noise a little bit more, but even with these stock tires, which are not of the best brand, it's good. It sounds really good. Now, the power inside here, it's also almost immediate. And that's what I really love about these plug-in hybrids or electric vehicles in general. It's just, it comes in extremely quickly. You get instant torque. And for a lot of electric vehicles, they kind of run out of juice about halfway through going to 100. But with this Changan NEVO Q05, you don't, because the engine can kick in at any time. It can run on its plug-in hybrid mode instead of just its regular range extended mode, for example, which gets you past the first half of your 0 to 100 acceleration. So this is a very fun vehicle to drive. And yes, since this is basically the Changan CS55 Plus but electrified version of it, it's so much better too, because one issue I had with the Changan CS55 Plus before was the fact that the transmission wasn't great. But now, since you do have this plug-in hybrid powertrain coupled to a DHT, a dedicated hybrid transmission, instead of some wonky dual clutch transmission, everything is just smooth in here. It doesn't even roll down hills, for example. It's just good. This car is so good to drive. Now, aside from it having lots of power and having, pretty respectable, fun acceleration, this Changan NEVO Q05 also surprisingly handles pretty well. You would expect like a big, heavy, electrified vehicle, especially a crossover, to not be of the best feeling over corners, but you know what? It doesn't really boat around too much. And the steering, it might be extremely light for city speeds, but as you go up a little bit quicker, well, it doesn't really give you that much feedback, if any feedback at all. It's sufficiently weighted in such a way that you can easily control this vehicle. It's very easy to drive. It's very easy to make sure you drive it safely too. Now, for the comfort in here, earlier I said it's very quiet, but not only that, actually when I got this test unit, I first thought that it had horrible ride. But then I found out that the tires were overinflated by over 10 psi. But now that I've got it down to its correct settings, it's actually pretty comfortable. Honestly, there still is a bit of firmness to it, and you can definitely feel that, but it's nothing that will hurt you inside here. For your daily driving needs, for Manila roads, even with our potholes, it's comfortable. In fact, I would say that it's a little bit more comfortable compared to a BYD Sealion 6.2. Now, once you take this up over at the highway, even at extra legal speeds, it remains to be very quiet. It tracks really well, but what I'm not a big fan of would be its lane keeping assist, because it's a little bit too sensitive even if you go into your settings and configure it. So even when you're, let's say, just about maybe an inch on the the lane markings, it just beeps at you and kind of fights your steering a little bit. So I tend to disengage that most of the time. But the regular adaptive cruise control, just for the distance of forwards and backwards of speed, that's really good. It's not jerky even inside city speeds, crawling city speeds. So the Changan NEVO Q05 PHEV is honestly breathtaking. It is extremely great to drive. It is super comfortable. It has great amounts of range. And most importantly, we gotta talk about its pricing, because this vehicle right here, the Changan NEVO Q05 PHEV in the top-of-the-line ID variant, costs only 1,449,000 pesos. For context, that is 99,000 pesos less compared to a BYD Sealion 6. And guess what? Just in case you still find this vehicle to be a little bit too expensive, well, don't worry, because for only 1,259,000 pesos, there's even an SE variant, which is not as fully loaded in terms of features, but has the exact same powertrain and battery capacity, which also consequently means it has the exact same amount of range. So yes, in this conclusion, we can easily say that the Changan NEVO Q05 PHEV is as good as the BYD Sealion 6 and is also of better value for money. So if you're looking for a crossover that is plug-in hybrid, is exempted from coding, gives you a ton of features, and is also pretty affordable for the general public, well then the Changan NEVO Q05 is definitely one vehicle that you should consider.